I may want to say this is just another edition of Miami Hurricanes Live, but that would make it not special. But each and every week is a special edition because the value's there, as you guys know. So lock it in, get yourself settled, leave those comments and questions in the live chat for Cam Underwood from State of the U. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. Yeah, hanging out. Got a brand new, well, not super duper new, but a little Christmas present that
Okay.
wearing here on the show and everything. But yeah,
Very nice.
Yeah, and it is all about the U, and we are sponsored by Adidas, so hey. But yeah, so yeah, just kind of hanging out on a Wednesday evening. Can't complain.
All right, absolutely. So again, you guys know what the deal is. We will get to your comments and questions. But we'll start it out with this. The big news surrounding college football, at least in regards to player movement right now, is that Jordan Addison, arguably the best wide receiver in college football, in a sense, officially, he is the Biletnikoff Award winner. 100 catches, 1,600 yards, 17 touchdowns. There's been much speculation about him possibly entering the transfer portal, and this has been going on for weeks. Well, he finally made his decision official, did enter the transfer portal. There's much speculation regarding a number of schools. USC, I believe, out in front. Is there a Miami component possibly involved?
Yeah, I mean, it's really pretty much all the big boys in terms of two kind of categories: one on field, two NIL. Name, image, and likeness compensation for players, which, again, people are conflating things. This is not the same as the bag man, who, for example, because I have this confirmed from a journalist friend of mine, Alabama one time sent two guys to a diner off of some rural route. They ordered a cup of coffee and left a briefcase with like $40,000. And they knew that the waitress at the time was the girlfriend's best friend's cousin, sister, down the line of a very well-known player who has gone on to star in the NFL. And that is the bag man game. That is the University of Florida getting a phone call that a player who made the NFL, and I have this confirmed because I know this person's family member who was there at the time, like at the house. Player, and from South Florida, player says, well, I'm really, thinking about maybe going to Miami. I'm thinking about going somewhere else, coach. I said, all right. Coach calls a guy who calls a guy. Not 15 minutes later, somebody drives through the hood, throws a duffel bag onto the porch that had various University of Florida gear and $15,000 cash. That is the bagman game. Name, image, and likeness is not that. Okay? This is a legal sanctioned thing that players can use their name, image, and likeness to make money. And, by advertising, by doing whatever else, by having, the Cam Underwood basketball camp, by, being a pitch man. Look, I saw, what's his name? Armando Bacot from UNC is going to be in Outer Banks, the Netflix series, as a paid actor, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Like, he's on set doing the thing, like, literally right now. He has a role. They have, like, a named character role for him and everything. And that's a thing that he could not do prior to NIL. So just to reset the level on what NIL is, okay? Now, are businesses and collectives run by people who would like to have positive influence on the program? Yeah, whatever. But that is different than the bagman situation, which still does happen, by the way. Anyway, Jordan Addison in the transfer portal from Pittsburgh, considering, or a lot of the chatter, because they're trying to read tea leaves from the outside, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Miami, USC. I think there were a couple other schools in there. But yeah, Texas, I think, but yeah, big names in terms of demonstrated performance on the field or, compensation potential through NIL. So Miami, I think, of any of these is going to be on the list. in terms of roster construction, I've talked for a long time about Miami needing a number one wide receiver. Jordan Addison would be that. The reigning Biletnikoff winner as a college sophomore for being the best wide receiver in college football. Debate that if you want, but he's in the conversation for the top three, and he actually won the award. So yeah, he is in Southern California working out with Bryce Young. Remember, Bryce Young went to Mater Dei. He's the quarterback who's broken that Mater Dei to USC quarterback pipeline, but that is where he currently is. There's pictures on the timeline of Jordan Addison at the Las Vegas airport when he was coming from Pittsburgh out west, also at LAX. And people have seen him working out with Bryce Young. So, could stand to reason that, he's out there in LA looking at SC. He's also, playing with Alabama starting quarterback. So he's like, hey, like, why don't you come down here? Let's keep this kind of thing going. But yeah, I think that there is a Miami component just from the simple fact that there's a spot for a lead wide receiver. And if you're looking for potential opportunities through name, image, and likeness, Miami is, if not at the very top of the conversation, in that same top three, thing, just like the finalists for the Biletnikoff. So we could see where that might go. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I would be here for that because Jordan Addison would bring a level of star power to the wide receiver room that is sorely lacking.
So Cam, while you contrast what's currently going on in college football in regards to these players being paid not for their performance on the field, but name, image, and likeness versus, the nefarious activities of yesteryear. And you spelled out and gave us one prime example. Do we know that there is a true name, image, and likeness component to all of these dealings? Because, okay, I'm not on social media and tracking all these guys all over the place, but is that always, and I don't expect you to answer for every player in the nation, but does that seem to be followed through on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, in Miami's case, and again, I would like real G's to move in silence like lasagna more than being braggadocious, because if you say someone says, oh, I'm so this, I'm so that, I have to keep boosting myself up about it. That just tells me that you're not real. Okay. I'm not saying that John Ruiz and Life Wallet are not real, but there's no reason to be all on social media about every single deal. We don't need that. Do it, sign them, boom. Texas, University of Hook'em, there's a booster who was saying that every scholarship offensive lineman was going to get a minimum of $50,000 per year plus through NIL for their company. That statement was made. We have heard nothing else about it. It's not, oh, Cam Williams from Duncanville signed, he got this. Oh, this guy signed, he got this. Oh, this guy signed, he got that, right? But I do believe 100% that they're following through with that. So you don't have to shout about it. It's pocket watching. Like, it's the thing. Like, you don't have to do that. But yeah, they're being followed through. And I will say, at least in Miami's case, the Ruiz volume on everything lets me know that that's being followed through. And I mean, he's a vetted, credentialed lawyer and everything. So he wouldn't say something like that, which could be, then used as fodder for litigation that would not be true or enforceable through contract or whatever. But yeah, I do believe it is. It's a major component. People do want to, make money and everything. And, I was making $75 to $250 a week, singing at churches when I was in school. And I'm sure that music majors, still do that kind of stuff. But had I had the opportunity to get, do things, I mean, and I could use my name, image, and likeness to, make that little money. And, I could do some other stuff, but, athletes did not have anything like that. And their name, image, and likeness is way more valuable than mine. And you see that. So insofar as somebody like a Jordan Addison, that's just simply going to be part of the conversation. Yes, I do want to go to your school. Yes, I do. Or, potentially want to go to your school. Yes, I do want to go to the league. Yes, I want to play with, having an elite quarterback down here in Miami. You have one, Caleb Williams at SC. You have Bryce Young at Alabama. You have not really an elite quarterback, but you got Brock Vandegrift on the roster at, Georgia. they brought back what's his face, the little kid who just won them the championship. Whatever.
This guy gets no respect. He's in
That's
the
the
national
thing.
championship
He's
quarterback.
fine. He's
really
fine.
good.
He's fine.
Stetson Bennett. I got a lot of respect for this guy.
He's fine. And that's okay. But apart from that, in this new landscape of, I can use my stardom to make money in your market, what opportunities are there and what numbers are we realistically talking? Let's connect with some people from some collectives or from some businesses. Because again, remember, you had Miami players who were doing car dealerships. They were doing, I forget the name of it, Mastro's, I want to say, or something. It was like this really high-end butcher down in South Miami. And so they're getting, Wagyu beef and all kinds of other stuff as part of that. And they were on ads and they're doing things for that. There are many different kinds of ways to engage in compensation that are not just directly through the school's booster collective or the NIL collective, so hey, let's talk about that. And in Tuscaloosa, I'm sure that everybody around is figuring out how to work within those constructs. Miami has demonstrated that. I mean, SC has already got a couple guys from Oklahoma and some recruits on that NIL program. And so the best wide receiver in college football, as termed by the Fred Biletnikoff organization, being on the market to potentially find a new school, that will have to be part of the conversation. And Miami is at the forefront, so at least kicking the tires and with the need on the roster, I would expect.
I just wondered if you were seeing this, because as soon as this NIL cut loose, I believe July 1st of 21, the first person that I heard of that's a marquee player, boom, Bo Nix. Okay, he's selling some kind of lemonade. I heard Bo Nix, lemonade, and I thought, okay, this is what I'm expecting this to be.
It was Milo's sweet tea.
Sweet tea. I'm sorry. Milo Sweet Tea. I was unfamiliar with the product, but anyway, regardless. So I heard that right out of the gate, and I thought, okay, I'm going to be inundated on social media and with all the conversations that I have by hearing that Garrett Wilson's doing this, and Aiden Hutchinson's doing that, and Will Anderson's doing that. And I don't hardly ever see this at all. And maybe this is just me not being in contact with this, but I just don't want us to be in a place where these athletes are just simply being paid and there's not the requisite work for the payment.
Well, and the
work outside of football.
Right. And the thing about it is everybody's not going to be a national spokesperson. It's not going to be, the lead in every Nike ad and voicing over every single thing. De'Aaron King and Ryan Rigoni, they had an NIL deal to start a podcast and they sold the ads through their podcast. Hey, that's name, image, and likeness, right? So and if you don't know, both of those gentlemen are from Houston. So that was the connection. They knew each other from previous to Miami. So, okay, cool. They're going to hop on the microphone. They're going to sell the ads, and they're going to do the ad reads and everything, get bevel.com, whatever, and boom. So that is a thing. And if you are someone who consumed the art of the podcast, then you would be a party to the NIL reads and everything that kind of went with that for the advertisement. If you didn't, you're not, And so Bo Nix, with Milo Sweet Tea, they have it at Target here in Fort Lauderdale, but they're not going to have Bo Nix's face at every single location in the world that has that. They're from Alabama. It's probably going to be locally in Alabama. You might see a commercial. You might hear a thing. It might be on, a campus network or like a podcast or something like that. So I think that they are doing the things, and in terms of Miami, I have seen some of the, other things that are some of the work product, as it were, for the compensation. But yeah, everybody is not. And again, this is up and down the roster, right? So the number 6 offensive tackle who's redshirting is not going to be on a national ad. But if he does what he needs to do within the constructs of his contract locally, that still does fulfill that. So it is a little bit more, this is where it's going to be fiercely regional, as college football, I think, is. It's really going to be that. It's going to be really local, because I wouldn't know who offensive lineman number 63 is from Mississippi State. but I guarantee you he has an NIL deal, and I guarantee you that he's doing something towards earning that money. I would never see that. I would never seek it out. I'm not from Starkville. I'm not going to Starkville ever in my life. Ever, ever, ever. I will never see it. But I'm sure that he's doing what needs to be done. Plus the fact, these schools got to be so scared of the NCAA. They got to make sure that, that there is some, hey, show and prove, show your work, right? You had to do what for the thing? Okay, there has to be an officer, there has to be a compliance officer. Hey, I need to see at least 50% plus one of what you were supposed to do, because legally then, or whatever the standard is, I'm not a lawyer, but, there has to be some kind of check and balance. And these schools definitely would not just be on a wing and a prayer, just being, okay, well, I hope Mark and Cam are doing what they do. And, if the NCAA comes behind them and says, well, they didn't do anything, and it's it's a scandal. Oh, well, that just happened. There's too much money in it. These, livelihoods and careers of everybody. No, I don't think that anybody's that stupid. Plus the fact, at a minimum, I think that the organizations do want to get the work product from the people because, yeah. And in case of Miami, especially with Life Wallet, I know that they're having a bunch of stuff this weekend through the F1 race, which is being held on the track that surrounds Hard Rock Stadium. So they're having a big event Friday, but I've seen all the players posting about it. It's this, it's a form letter, and I've done social media advertising. I get it. They send you the text, they give you the graphic, you post it up a couple times, look at Leonard Taylor's, look at Gilbert Fryerson's, look at, any of these players. I've seen it going up. So it can be things like that satisfy it as well. But again, if you're not looking for it, you might not see it. But I think that it is happening.
So, okay, just so that is going on, that satisfies me. I don't pretend to be on the forefront. I'm obviously not of this information as it pertains to college football. Okay, so my next two gripes with NIL as it stands right now is, and some of this involves the Jordan Addison situation, what we're hearing out there about tampering. So in no way, I'll make this analogous to speeding on a highway. Can everyone be caught? Can there be that type of oversight? But I would like to know that the NCAA is doing its best, or as is the case in other situations involving grades and money laundering and all those other things, that others are turning others in to try to rein in tampering. So that's another thing. And then
tampering happens. It's going to happen. Again, coaches know coaches. So I don't even, Mark, I don't even got to go to you. I can go to your high school coach who you're friends with still. I can go to the 7-on-7 coaches. Those are programs that, are very connected to their players and things like that. So people think of tampering as like, okay, Cam calls Mark, or Cam the coach calls Mark the player. That's tampering. There's levels to this. You know what I mean? And plain and simple, those things happen all of the time. And that has not changed with this. It won't change. It can't change just because I don't think it's legislatable. I don't think that's really enforceable. It can be like, you can try, because if enforcement is low, then the penalty has to be high to really dissuade somebody, right? So in Canada, they have, in like Toronto, the subway is on the honor system. So you do not have to buy a ticket. But if you get caught without a ticket, it's like $25,000, right? So the one time that a Mountie comes in and says, hey, let me see your ticket, and you don't have it, now you're stuck like Chuck. So the enforcement is low, but the penalization is really high.
You hit on my next point. Thank you. Exactly. So that's what I would hope for there. And if it happens once every 5 years, I would love to see somebody get nailed to the wall. Okay, we caught tampering and we put together X, Y, and Z. Boom. You're fired. School A gets stripped of 25 scholarships, whatever. Fill in the blanks. No bowl games for 3 years, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Just really hammer them to the wall. And then the other one that's not another unenforceable tenant in all of this, but I would love to see it at least be a rule, so at least everybody's understanding that this is not allowable. And again, if the connections can be made and somebody can get hammered to the wall, that these players are not presented with NIL deals before they commit, sign, and enroll to a school. I want them to make the decision to go to a school based on, sure, they're going to have the knowledge that Miami's a great place to go for NIL. They're going to have the knowledge of that, but I do not want them signing for that reason, even though they are signing for that reason.
I hear you. That's another one that's just, then you're asking them to walk by faith and not by sight. You know, like we have this opportunity or and you know, like we can see where it goes and things like that. But remember that NIL is not pay for play, and it is not directly tied to any one institution. So you can have or work out deals with multiple collectives. You know, if you are talented, you can get the $8 million deal like Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee, which is, they have not come out and said it, but it is pretty well known that that number went to that player, which is why that player signed or is committed to that school. I mean, in a vacuum, I understand where you're coming from. But living in real life, man, I need a number. I'm sorry. Like I need the number. And again, if they're analogous level schools, right? So let's even remove the super tip top teams out of the conversation. Let's say Utah State and Memphis, right? $45,000 here and $50,000 there. Is that, you know, a line of demarcation? Yeah. Is it a difference? Sure. Is that the determining factor at that number rate? It could be, you know, but like, I just, you know, but if it's, you know, if it's Utah State, Memphis, and Southern Miss, and Southern Miss is at 70, right? Okay, now we're talking something that's pretty substantial. 45 and 50, nah. I mean, it would be nice to make the 50, but I'm going to choose Utah State at the 45 just because I think that's better even with the number. But yeah, somebody then comes in at 75 to 80 of a similar caliber, then it's like, whoa, hey, that's, you know, instead of, you know, an 8% bump, you know, from 45 to 50, you're talking a 80% bump, 85% bump from 45 to 75. Whoa, hey, you know, like, yeah, 1.7x on the offer, that matters. So I hear you. I just think that I don't know how to make reality fit with that desire that you've stated.
Okay, again, I'm not stating that it's going to be reality. I'm stating that I would like to have that standard officially put out there and written, and then everyone knows, hey, you play the game the way, however you want to play it, but understand if you get caught.
And, you know, maybe because, you know, everybody's been reporting that they're looking at, you know, putting in some different structures and parameters on NIL and everything. And of course, everybody wants to be screaming about Miami in that, just because, you know, Miami is triggering for people just because, you know, we're down here in South Florida. But, you know, that's potentially possible. And maybe someone else has the foresight that I don't have. And maybe if I consider it, because again, this is something you've thought about that I'm just being onboarded to that thought. You know, so I just don't see how enforcement would match your preference or what the structure would be for that. But maybe somebody else has already thought of that. Maybe somebody else is going down that path. Maybe if I even marinate on it, I can see how that would be married. Just right now, I just don't necessarily see. But this is, you know, these conversations and others are definitely on the table for NIL. And, you know, whether it's Jordan Addison or anybody else, I fully expect Miami to be at the forefront of NIL. Obviously, we have been. Miami was at the forefront of the transfer portal when that first started, you know, and everything. So, you know, with all these things, Miami's been at the forefront. I expect Miami to stay at the forefront. And, you know, hopefully we can get back to the forefront of the standings by winning games.
Appreciate the super chat or super sticker there, Falconer X. Appreciate that as always. Marcus. Cam, I tried to ask this question on the Florida State show, but how long until you feel an ACC championship between Florida State and Miami will be regularly played?
I don't feel that it's
Why don't we get to the first one?
Right. I mean, yeah, first of all, let's get to the first one. Second of all, I just think that they're so far behind that it would take a while. I mean, so I would say regularly, as in what we'll call it 3 out of 5 years that happens, at least 15 years. I just don't think that they're. I mean, yeah, to with that regularity, right, where it's back to the 90s and early 2000s. Well, I mean, all of that time, but where both Miami and Florida State are elite and the top. You know what I mean? So it's going back and forth and all those kind of things. I just don't. I mean, I think that there could be a time that happens. I think that both teams can, get towards that. But for them more than us to be consistent at the top of that division, because Clemson is not who Clemson was, but Clemson's still Clemson. And then NC State, they can have good years. Hey, Wake Forest even, and for them to be competitive in that kind of a way, I think that it would be a while. And I think that keeping it to the while would be Florida State from that, not Miami, even with the fact that 17 years in, Miami's only been to one ACC championship game. And I know people are going to say that. I know people are probably going to clip that. And I know that FSU sites are going to be pissed that I said that. I don't give a shit. I'm right. Be mad.
Well, we don't know that you're right.
I'm right. I'm right. I said what I said.
Okay. My examples are going to be Pete Carroll, USC, Mac Brown, Texas. Those were marginal situations. Those were 6-win football teams that had been slumping. USC, the latter half of the 90s, Texas, the same thing. And boom, they straightened them out in a hurry.
I don't think that Mike Norvell is in the conversation with either of those.
Well, it might not be him. Well, you're talking about 15 years from now. He might be gone in 2 years.
I mean, for Florida State's sake, they probably hope that. For my sake, I hope that he sticks around. But hey,
because usually the guy that turns it around, especially at a place that has resources, it happens in a hurry.
Very true.
It's a slow burn with Mark Stoops at Kentucky because he had to do so much. It's a heavy lift, but shoot, Florida State.
And that's a basketball school, like clearly a basketball school, Kentucky, that being. But he's done a really good job.
I'll go back to this question here, and I'll remind everyone, please like the videos, share these videos out on social media, let people know that we're here all the time, or just talk to people that say, hey, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time, be here. And, of course, you can support a number of ways. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. MarkRogersTV is what you search, or right here with the Super Chat. Deneric, which players will have to step up their game since the transfers came in?
Everybody at the positions that they play, particularly defensive line. Those are in the non-Leonard Taylor division because he's at the top of the roster. He is, 5-star, top 3 player in America recruit. He's probably, he's a sophomore this year, so 2 more years in the first-round draft pick. Like, he's like that. But everybody else on defensive line, especially, I'd be looking at that. We already saw wide receiver has some of that. Dazzin Worsham, actually showed pretty well that he's getting back to form from his high school All-American time. But even he has decided to go in the transfer portal, a little bit. I think it was like right after the show last week. But record-setting wide receiver in high school, and you bring in, Ladson and everything, and he's sought shelter elsewhere. But yeah, in addition, I would say anybody who's not starting on offensive line, because you bring in Logan Sagapolu, and he looks like he is figuring to start, just because people move in a backwards direction from defense when he gets his hands on them. So, I would say, the interior offensive lineman, because he plays an interior position, and defensive line pretty much across the board, non-Leonard Taylor. Those would be the players that I would say need to step their game up because of the guys that we brought in at the top of the roster in front of them.
Cam, we did not get a chance, I think we were off this particular week, to review one Lamar Seymour, wide receiver, 6 feet 170. Do you have much information out of on him from Northwestern High School in Miami?
He went to Central before he transferred to Northwestern. That is Lawrence Seymour, the offensive line signee's younger brother. He's fine. He can play at Miami. He might not be a game breaker, but he can be, maybe a rotational guy down the line. I would like to maybe see some other guys at wide receiver. But I get, the family connection, and his brother just signed and everything. And you do what you got to do to get Lawrence. So that means you take Lamar, and then he goes to Northwestern, and Northwestern's obviously, I would say of the two, Northwestern is better at developing wide receivers. Amari Cooper, Romello Brinson recently, Andy Jean is down there as well with Lamar Seymour, Tommy Streeter, Aldarius Johnson, a bunch of guys over the course of time have gone to Northwestern. He didn't play wide receiver; he played quarterback. But Tutu Atwell went to Northwestern. They do really, really well with developing wide receivers at Northwestern. I think they do better with running backs at Miami Central. Just as evidenced by who's gone there and how they performed. So, he can elevate his skill and everything and, be a part of this class. He's probably like a mid 3-star, I believe, at this time. He's probably like a mid upper 3-star kind of a guy. Again, he's fine. He's not a game changer at the next level, I don't think. I could be wrong. I just, I think that I have a pretty good grasp on that. But again, I think that his biggest asset is his family name. And because I honestly think if he was Lamar Johnson from Miami Northwestern, I'm not sure that he's a take right now, honestly. You know what I mean? But, we'll see how he does through his senior year and everything. But, yeah, that's kind of the story on Lamar Seymour.
92nd ranked wide receiver, number 102 in the state of Florida. And to your point, the guys ranked around him have committed to Texas Tech, UCLA, Colorado.
And again, I think that he can be a Power 5 player. I think.
I thought it was going to be a little lower down the ranks than those.
Well, because remember, 90-something is the 30th-ish. If you're doing hockey lines, it's like the 30th line of wide receivers. Yeah. So there's 30-something Power 5 schools, or more.
65.
65. So you're talking upper half of the Power 5 in terms of talent. So, he's a guy who can be on the roster here. And then, hey, maybe he, is working out really hard and he develops, I think, a little bit more athletically and then, honing his skill. And remembering, and I was just having this conversation in a different context at the secret day job, but please always remember that talent is God-given and skill is developed, right? So I think that he has some talent. I think that obviously, he has good size and everything. I do believe that he can develop demonstrable skill a little bit better. And again, I think by transferring from Central to Northwestern, particularly as a wide receiver, he's putting himself in a much better situation to develop, just because I think that Northwestern does better developing wide receivers. I just don't think that he's a game changer. I think he's a depth player, not a superstar, but we'll see.
I was hustling to try to find a similarly ranked player from the 2019 class that jumped out to become a strong player. But anyway, Chris, appreciate you being here. Go Canes, the great Mark Rogers, and the GOAT, Cam Underwood. I see how that works. Cam's the greatest of all time. I'm just on the list. I'm just like on the list. Okay. Yes. Cam, you still see Miami getting more linebackers in the transfer portal?
It depends on who's out there, because there was the May 1st deadline to, enter the portal. So to be able to transfer without petitioning for a waiver. So that means it would be somebody already out there. Eric Gentry, in case anybody was wondering, the kid from Arizona State did go to USC. So he is not someone who is going to come to Miami because he's already announced a commitment elsewhere. And I think he was more of a D end at 6'6" to something. I honestly, I would have to look and see who's out there. I'm not really sure. I would hope that Miami would be able to get somebody, but if there's no name that's coming off the top of my dome right now, I'm not really sure then that there's going to be one out there.
Falcon Rex, appreciate you being here. Thank you so much again. Miami makes change, including the rule book.
Facts.
Lee, do you think Miami has a good defensive backfield?
Yeah, definitely. Safety's better than corners, but yes, I think that there's a good secondary. James Williams, Avonte Williams, no relation. Cam Kinchins at safety. Brian Balin coming back off of an injury. Jalen Harrell. Tyreek Stevenson, Al Blades, DJ Ivy, who looks the part, but maybe he'll develop. Marcus Clark. They're still having Malik Curtis on defense, on offense, but fine. Whatever. We're going to keep doing that. Corey Couch. He's tiny, but he's talented. And guys, even in this recruiting class, yeah, I think that there's a good secondary. Yeah.
Brian Taylor, Cam, what are some must-gets this upcoming recruiting class 2023? The NFL draft should be a wake-up call to everyone. There's so much work needed.
I don't like playing the must-get game. I wrote an article one year where I don't believe in such things because there's always another insert here. Now, obviously, there is a, right time, right place element, where you need somebody at this position this year. So missing on them is hurtful, but yeah, there's going to be another wide receiver. There's going to be another offensive tackle. There's another one. But man, in this class, honestly, I would have to say wide receivers down here in South Florida. Because it's like defensive ends a couple years or last year. There's just more than you can shake a stick at. I would say if you need a wide receiver, and you do, I would say that you need, in the wide receiver group, you have to have either Brandon Ennis, 5-star All-American from Plantation American Heritage, or Jaylen Brown from Gulliver Prep at the top of your class. We have to have one of those guys. Have to, must. It's required. To Marcus's point, how much gain are we gaining for Clemson commit Nathaniel Joseph from Miami Edison? More than a little bit. Miami has been pushing for him. I believe his nickname is Ray Ray. But Miami's been out of practices, during the evaluation period of the spring. I know Gabby Urrutia from 247, former State of the U contributor, he has even spoken about that. He's quick, he's shifty, he just makes guys miss, he's fast. So, you can never have too many of those guys. Hakeem Williams from Stranahan up here in Fort Lauderdale. He's the big-bodied guy. He's the 6'5" on the roster, power forward for the basketball team. So 6'3.5", 6'4". But yeah, he's got the size and speed, and he can refine his skill, but he's pretty damn good. So he's the guy that we need. I think towards the top of the class for wide receivers as well. So I don't necessarily think that. And again, obviously, there's always going to be guys every year. It just depends on where they are and what positions. And then in general, you just need a couple real blue chip or offensive tackles and a defensive tackle or two. But, like the big boys, like there are guys that you're going to need there. For those positions, you're probably going to look elsewhere than South Florida just because we usually don't have many of those dudes down here, which is why I think that this roster has struggled a little bit, and sometimes trying to fit square pegs in round holes by making the guys that we have here into things that they're not, i.e. Navon Donaldson coming back, trying to be a right tackle, because he was 6'6", so he tried it. I mean, obviously that's the position with the higher compensation floor at the NFL level, but move inside, buddy. You don't have the quickness, you don't have the foot speed to play outside, but he fit the physical profile. So you try to, force something where it doesn't necessarily fit. But yeah, locally, I would say along the wide receiver front, I need and there's so many more names. There's so many more names than what I'm going to say. Just trust and know and believe that. I need 2 of Brandon Ennis, Jaylen Brown, and Hakeem Williams. And then, between both lines, I need over 2.5 blue chip tackles, offensive and defensive.
Falconer X. Now, this is phenomenal. So maybe 3 or 4 months ago, Falconer X was obviously on one of my call-in shows, and somebody called in, and this particular caller was giving excuses to the Colorado football team in 1990 for losing a game against Missouri because of the turf. And Falconer X, ever since, he never fails to come up with a clever and witty line, something to do with turf. Mark, why don't you got to give us your top 10 turf rankings or whatever he has to say for the day. And so today it's Mark. I am currently working with Scott's Fertilizer and Miracle Grow to get a turf sponsor for when you launch the turf channel.
Nice.
Very good. Very good. What else did I come up with that I thought, yes, from Falconer X here. I think this is a interesting question here because the junior college ranks seem to have really taken a beating here. So we will get Cam's take as the recruiting expert on this one. Meanwhile, I want to remind everyone that we're here every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time talking Miami. And of course, you see the Florida State fans, the Notre Dame fans, the Ohio State fans, the Oregon fans, the Michigan fans. You see all sorts of fan bases represented. So bring college football fans here to talk Miami each and every Wednesday at 7. Meanwhile, I was looking at the 2019 class thinking, okay, this is the most recent. I can go back to just look at the top 100 wide receivers and let's see how low I can go in the rankings and find some good players. Well, I found 4 lower than 60 that I would consider to be solid wide receivers at their programs, contributors at places like Virginia. The first guy that really stands out, John Mechie at 40 in the rankings at wide receiver that particular year, 2019. All right, Falconer X. This is kind of a sad deal when it comes to just what maybe this transfer portal and whatever the NIL implications are in all of this has done to junior college football and those prospects. So Falconer X says nobody talks about JUCO transfers anymore. Has the portal and NIL destroyed the junior college path to Division I football?
I don't think it's destroyed it. It has made it very much more precarious than it used to be. Remember, Jermaine Johnson, who went to Florida State, he went to Georgia after he was at Independence the year that they were out there for Last Chance U. So, even a guy who, was here, hi, Tim, at, a Power 5 team. And, he went to Florida State and, was a first-round draft pick. That's a guy in this current draft cycle who, went JUCO to, eventual national champion. He was going to be a backup on that defense if he stayed. He goes and starts at Florida State, whatever. But he gets a first round draft pick. It's just going to be, I think, fewer of those guys. I think the transfer portal with the one-time free transfer, as in I can just go somewhere else and play. But you can do that one time in your career. Any other transfer to immediate, eligibility would become possible with the waiver, But I just think that the portal is just, it has, I think, made a strata. It's changed the hierarchy, I think, where upper teams are going to recruit, from other, bigger teams. Even if you're talking some guys Division II, you're talking FCS, you're talking the bottom half of Division I. I think they're going to go up to Alabama, O State, Washington, Texas, Miami. Like the cream of the crop, and then that'll create room for guys from JUCO and Division II, Division III, maybe to come up to a different stratosphere in Division I. But I think it will take the real special talent to continue to go JUCO to high major Division I think.
What happens? This is another similar recruiting question to what Falcon Rex just asked. What happens in a situation like, I'm looking up his ranking right now. Adam Verse just left Albany. He was pursued by Tennessee and Florida State, most notably. He's signed with Florida State, and he's supposed to be a stud. And he went to Albany. Like, you expect, okay, Tennessee and Florida State are fighting over a player from a lower rank. You expect, okay, he's playing at App State or he's Albany. What usually happens in those kind of situations? Is that probably
Jared Verse?
Yes. What did I say?
Adam
Verse. Yes. Jared Verse. Yes, absolutely. My bad. Jared Verse. Is that typically a grades issue?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he let's
see where he was ranked. I can't
find his
ranking now.
He wasn't ranked as a high school kid. 6'4", 247, so he had the size. From school in Pennsylvania. Yeah, so I mean, you're really going to be looking at grades. There's going to be some measure of lack of exposure there, but there's going to be that, and then there's also just going to be most times in the case of somebody like this, which is the thing Bud Elliott has always talked about of, you can be a 2-star player to end up a first-round draft pick, if you add 30% of your body mass is lean muscle. Khalil Mack, completely had this, growth spurt. He changed his body. JJ Watt, a 6th-string tight end, offensive at Western Michigan. He goes to Wisconsin, he grows 2 inches, gains 65 pounds of lean muscle, and turns into JJ Watt. So like that's usually the kind of a thing. It just so happened in Jared Verse's thing that, I mean, it might. I'm not exactly sure. I was not on the inside of that recruitment, and I mean, respectfully, it's not something I was going to follow.
Yeah.
But he goes to Albany, he plays really well, he kind of unlocks all the athletic potential that he had, and just kind of refined his body. It seems like so. I mean, he's within 10 pounds of what he was. At least listed coming out of high school, but he's demonstrated the ability to perform on the field. And then, okay, cool. Well, I've done that, and I'm going to bump up a level. I forget the name of the kid now, but there was that wide receiver from James Madison who was that we talked about potentially Miami going after 6 weeks ago. Who was really, really good. 6'2", he could jump out of the gym. He's going over people. He's running by guys on his highlight film. I think, he was a freshman. He was, first-team All-American, had 3 years left. He might have been even a redshirt freshman with a COVID year. But he bumps up to the Power 5 level and everything. But I mean, that's possible. But I mean, sometimes there are still guys who fall through the crack. It's going to be fewer, obviously, now than it used to be. But it's going to be something like grades or, I never went to anybody's camp or anything like that. Jordan Miller, the defensive tackle at Miami, he played at such a small place in Florida called Palatka. Never heard of it, but it's in the middle of Nowheresville. So they would like phone in their scores to like a local paper. They usually never even had like just a normal, preps reporter going to the games there. So he was a guy who was very under the radar. He never got to go to a camp or something. Then he transfers to Jacksonville Sandalwood. He gets, kind of on the radar there a little bit. And then, okay, yeah, he's like a 3-star recruit. So there are still some of those things. And maybe that did happen with Jared Verse. But at a certain point, yeah, you demonstrated on the field and say, hey, I think that I have some of the physical traits that could help me elevate to a different kind of a team. And now, again, with the transfer portal and the free transfer rule, where I'm able to transfer up and not sit out a year, let's make it happen.
Hurricane Speed Jr., appreciate the contribution. Thank you so much for that. I love the direction this program is going in. And yes, we have to win for better recruits in years to follow. Go Canes.
Hurricane Speed has read the recruiting rules. If you remember, number 9 is win. You have to show proof of concept. Like, there has to be something for players to hold on to. You have to give them a tangible result. It might not be winning everything. It might not be an undefeated national championship season, but you have to show progress. Otherwise, you're the same old program that you have been. So, yeah, we have to be going in the right direction, and we have to put some results together to be able to continue the momentum. I do agree.
And if you like the direction this program is headed, of course, support by hitting the like button, subscribe, and do all those good things. And also, as you see on the ticker down below, it's been scrolling for like 50 minutes. So it probably just kind of runs by you like air conditioning and you don't notice it. We could do some really big things here and really get going with Cam and myself and the whole direction of this. And there's nothing wrong with what we're doing. Cam brings it, delivers every week. But just imagine how much more we could cement what we're doing here if we had a sponsor. So keep that in mind. If you run a small business or you know somebody who does, or a large business, shoot, I would not turn down Nike or Dick's Sporting Goods or anyone like that as well. Yes. So if you'd like to sponsor the channel, this specific show, hit me up at MarkRogersTV@gmail.com. Terrence says, Mark and Cam, I think we should look at moving Jaleel Skinner to wide receiver this year if we don't have anyone who can take the top off defenses and use those other 2 ends heavily this year.
No. Sorry. I think that Jaleel Skinner is a guy who you can flex into the slot. You can even put him outside at wide receiver. Like in a Jimmy Graham kind of an outside alignment. But he doesn't have the foot speed to be a receiver. That's why he needs to be at tight end. So you're going to look at some matchups or mismatches and things like that. I think you can use him in terms of alignment in ways like this, but he's a tight end. He's not a receiver. He doesn't have the foot speed to be able to do that, especially at this level. So, flex him around, put him in motion, from left to right, put him on the wing, so attached to the line, but that's that step back. You can put him at H-back. You can put him, number 3 in the slot on a 3-by-1 receiver set. You can put him at the point of a diamond. So if you go, 3 receiver set in the other way, have 2 off the line, have him on the line. You could do a lot of things with him to move him in places to use his skills in that way. But I don't think that putting him at wide receiver does anything good for the player or the program, just because he doesn't have the speed, And I do think that we have guys. We might not have that number 1 Amon Richards. He's going to go by you and blur you over the top. But I think that we do have speed at wide receiver. So I think that we can have some guys go vertical to try to take the top off a little bit, to extend that, really just have those safeties instead of heels at 12, maybe heels at 15, because we're going over the top. Plus, fact, Tyler Van Dyke can get the ball there. Where? Anywhere. He can get the ball there, wherever it needs to be. So we have some guys to try to do that. And you do have Xavier Restrepo. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he can make some things happen. You do have Rashard Smith, who is one of the fastest guys in the world. So, he can take the top off as well. Jacoby George consistently gets, behind guys. Maybe he's making, contested catches, but, he's driving down the field and things like that. So there's ways that you can move him around a little bit. But I think that, using and the other 2 tight ends will be Will Mallory and Elijah Arroyo. I think that all 3 of those guys at the top of the tight end rotation can be used, because Arroyo is a guy who you can maybe not as easily put all the way outside wide like you can with Skinner. But yeah, I would say, you can do some funky things where you have 2 or all 3 of them on the field, but use them in a variety of alignments, including, inside and out, particularly with Skinner, because he's not the bulkiest guy right now. So he seems, body-wise, he's analogous to, and he's not the same player. He's not the same player. He's not the same player as who I'm going to say. Body-wise, at this point, he's 10 pounds lighter than Calvin Johnson at 6'5". He's not the same player. He doesn't have sub 4.3 speed, right? But can I use him now outside more than Elijah Arroyo, at 6'5", 230? Yes. You want to talk about somebody that size who's played at Miami. That's Daryl Langham. That's Lawrence Cager plus 10 pounds, right? He has that build currently. So, yeah, putting him outside in some instances, yes, but that would be a tight end being split out wide, not a wide receiver. And the difference matters.
Falcon Rex, appreciate it so much, as always. And I guess he's letting you know, Cam, that, your days for singing for pay and churches and weddings and so forth, that doesn't have to come to an end. Falcon Rex is willing to hire you to sing the theme for the Voice of College Football.
I need to practice, honestly.
We have a lyricist that we can get some.
I need
to write a song, I guess, first.
My instrument is not aligned the way that it used to be. It's I'm like, I can hold a tune, like I can bust a note, whatever. But like, no, to do that, I would actually need to. I would need to workshop. I would need to shed. I would need
Cam,
to.
It's going to be a jingle type tune. It's not going to stretch the vocal cords.
No, but see, the thing about it is everybody has their standards, and I've been at that level where I've performed with the best in the world. You know what I mean? Like, I performed with Grammy Award-winning artists. Even done recording sessions with them. I performed with the Cleveland Orchestra down here, which is a world-renowned orchestra, and things like that. Like, I've been at that level, and I know what it takes, even for a jingle. It's one thing, like, if I get, a little drunk and I sing along in the car on the radio, or not drinking and in the car, sorry. If I drink and do karaoke, or a different situation, I sing along in the car, because we do not drink and drive. Please be safe. But it's one thing to be able to do that and, like, sing along the tune of the song, versus like, no, I'm going to do something that's going to be like recorded and things like that. I would definitely have to. It would honestly 3-4 hours a day. I would need to shed. I would really need to shed.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, my standards aren't that high. I'll take you anyway. I can get.
And again, it's not even for looking for anything else, but just like, again, it's just like the University of Miami football team. We have a standard, and we know what the standard is, and we have to go for that standard. It would be the same thing. Like, I know where I currently am in terms of, and again, talent is God-given, skill is developed. Talent always there. My skill not as refined as I want it to be able to do something like that. But maybe.
We'll keep that in mind, Falcon Rex. Keep after him. If you got time for one more question, others are asking, Chris in particular, about the great offensive tackle out of IMG Academy, Bradenton, Florida, Francis Maioga.
Yeah.
I don't think I pronounced that correctly, but 6'5", 330, and Miami shot at him.
I think he needs to come back for another visit. I think he came down for a camp situation. And IMG is always notoriously stingy in the springtime because they're a mercenary squad, to be perfectly honest. Their roster turns over every single year. They're going to have guys who go back to their home schools in their home areas, and then they're going to get guys from other places to come on down. But then they instill that college mentality. It's Oak Hill Academy for football. It's a football factory, and they are very intensive over the spring in terms of installing their program and everything like that. And when they have required times to be there in Bradenton, which is why you see all of them going to specific events. They usually plan on, because it's closer, they plan to have everybody from IMG go to the Orlando opening regional, because they're like, cool, we will not schedule anything on campus football related for that weekend. We will take everyone and go over there for that. But then that also precludes players from going other places on other weekends. So Francis Mauga is one of the guys that has an offer from Miami at offensive tackle. He's one of the guys that Miami is pushing for. I would say if I go back to my music background, superior, excellent, good, fair, poor. From top to bottom, I would say fair to fair plus chance. So maybe, like a C-ish range. There just needs to be more connectivity between player and program to really move that up. But, if that does not improve, there are lots of other players as well that Miami is chasing after. I believe Madden Sanker has set his official visit to Miami coming up in a couple of weeks here in June as a 4-star offensive lineman. There's another kid from Don Bosco Prep. I forget his name, but he was just down on an unofficial visit. I believe he's planning to come back for an official visit as well. So even though his name escapes me at this very moment, there are other guys on the board. So, yeah, again, I think it's getting a player of the caliber for the slot as opposed to getting an individual specific player. Especially, I don't believe that Francis Mauga is from Florida. And, hey, I've said his name a bunch of times, so this is, unintentional publicity. But Bud Elliott has written a couple pieces over the years, both at SB Nation and now at his new home at 247 Sports, looking at doing some data disaggregation of where IMG players go for college. And I think there's a very high correlation to the fact of guys going back to the areas that they are from originally for college. Because, again, that's a boarding school. So, if they're from California, more often than not, they're going to go to California or go back out west. If you're from South Carolina, you're going to go that way. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. Brian Hightower played at Corona Centennial and then signed with your Miami Hurricanes coming out of IMG. One of the few. But, yeah, I think it's a very high correlation. It's like 75, 80% of players go back to their home areas for college. So with that being the case, and I don't believe that Mauga is from here, I would say look at that correlation maybe to be a factor in his recruitment as well moving forward.
And to finish off the night, I will not divulge who Willie roots for, because I will just simply let this statement stand. You're making an assumption when I stated that.
I am.
You're making,
and you know what happens when you assume.
It may ruin the statement. So let's just let it stand. So Willie is obviously, I'm taking it from the statement. So he joins us on other shows, is not aware of the Miami show here, and is not taken part of Cam's analysis before, because he says this gentleman has one of your top channels, tells the truth and shows no have bias one way or the other. We know he wants Miami to win, but runs a very professional channel. Enjoy his perspectives. I thought I was still running the channel. But
well, yeah, no, he runs the channel and I'm the guest. But no, Willie, I appreciate that. And I do try to be pragmatic, but I do bleed orange and green. I went to the University of Miami. And like you said, it's clear that I do want Miami to win, but I'm not going to sit here and overtly lie, and hey, I might get some things wrong, but I do try to, just do my best. But, hey, I appreciate that comment, and, glad to have you here. Hope that you show up next week, week after, and maybe next week. I got to check my calendar. But whenever the next show is, to come and join us. I appreciate, having new people join. So thanks.
What's going on at State of the U?
State of the U. We always have something going 24/7, 365. Today, who was it? It was Blake Malik wrote a piece about Jordan Addison and imploring John Ruiz and the Ruiz family to, maybe be generous in their NIL conversations with him. Justin Tattavio looked back at the spring schedule. John Reynolds is beat writing on baseball. Who was that? Jake Marcus did yeoman's work with Path to the Draft for all of the guys who were eligible for the draft. Yes, Miami only had one guy drafted, that being John Ford in the 7th round, going to the Green Bay Packers. But still, all that content was really, really well done. We've shared that out across SB Nation to Acme Packing Company, that is the Packers blog, and then to all the sites to which guys have signed, including De'Aaron King to New England as a Cordell Stewart / kind of a guy, because he was announced by New England as quarterback / running back / wide receiver when they announced his signing as an undrafted free agent. So, if you wanted to dive into that and what that could look like, Jake Marcus has that. We're working on a couple of other things as well. In addition, Kappa Kane, because he has the ability to write during the day, which unfortunately the secret day job does not afford me, has written a couple of things, including the unfortunate news that Sam Bruce, former Miami Hurricanes signee, passed away at the very unfortunately young age of 25 years old. And yeah, so he wrote about that, and also his homegoing service is coming up this week. And I guess that's where I'll close it. But Sam Bruce was just a wonderful, wonderful individual, had this huge personality, was just a leader. It did not work out for him at Miami for a variety of reasons, but was still just an upstanding individual. I met him a couple of times in high school, and everybody who met Sam Bruce just really gushed about the young man and what everyone thought of him. His peers looked up to him. I mean, even in the same chronological area, same grade, and like the younger guys around in South Florida all, wanted to be Sam. They're going around the hood like, oh, I get to be Sam, as they're playing in the street, football and everything. And just a dynamic individual. It's so sad to see a life snuffed out or lost at that age. It wasn't a gang situation or anything. It was, I'm not going to say because I believe I know why, but there were conflicting things maybe that were put out there as to what unfortunately brought about the end of his life. But in any event, we do wish him and his memory and his family our condolences through that. If you wanted to send flowers, I believe that information is in there in that article as well, or attend his homegoing service and everything. So yeah, it just kind of puts everything in perspective that none of us are here for long, and things like that. So, just cherish the time that we have, and, the memories of Sam Bruce. And again, we hope that he rests in peace, and hope that his family finds comfort in this time of turmoil, because obviously to lose someone at 25 years old is, it's not easy. But that's another thing that's up on the front page of stateoftheu.com, just paying our respects to him as well. And there's so much more, in that piece. So I really do urge you to go read that. And then as well, like I already gave you multiple things that we have up at stateoftheu.com. So, please make your way over to the website, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U. My personal Twitter account is at Underwood Sports. That's what we have going on, and so much more. So, please just, be over that you connect with us. And, if you are a faithful person, uplift your thoughts and prayers towards, the memory of Sam Bruce and his family as well.
Well, Cam, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And, of course, thank you for being here, and everybody on back next Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time.